Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Victoria Benyon, and the founder of the Victoria Benyon Podcast Booking Agency. And you're listening to The Best Guest, the podcast for business owners, creatives, and entrepreneurs who want to harness the power of podcasts to grow their platforms and increase their visibility. We're here to support you on your journey, bringing you actionable tips with each episode. Now, let's begin. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Best Guest podcast, where we're going to talk about what equipment you need in place before you start getting booked as a guest on podcasts, and then how you find podcasts that are a good fit for you. So before you begin pitching podcasts, you need to make sure that you have the right equipment in place so that you're ready to go when those yeses start rolling in. This is one of the first things that we cover with our clients so that they look and sound professional. Yes, I did say look, as more and more hosts are actually using video as well as audio. It's really worth getting this part right. Imagine putting in all that effort into booking, preparing for, and recording a podcast interview, only to have the sound quality so poor that the host can't use the show. Not only is it a waste of your time, but also theirs. Remember, podcast interviews not only offer you the opportunity to connect and share your message with your target audience, but they also offer the chance to build a relationship with the host. And think about it. Hosts invest their time and money into building their podcasts. They're dedicated to growing their audience and showing up regularly with great content. So you want to make sure that you respect their time and the opportunity that they're giving you. If your interview goes well, the host may invite you back on their show. They may recommend you to other podcast hosts, or they may even become a client. So you really want to maximize each and every interview. One way you can do that is to invest in good equipment. This way you'll be ahead before you even begin. And before you start thinking, oh no, how much is this going to cost me? The good news is that decent equipment doesn't have to cost a fortune. There are lots of great options out there, but I'm going to focus on the equipment that we use or that's been recommended to us by podcast hosts. Now, don't be tempted to use your computer's inbuilt microphone. It's just not good enough. Get yourself an external microphone. I use the Blue Yeti. It's a condenser microphone, which means it picks up lots of sounds. So I set it on the cardioid recording mode, which is perfect for podcasting, as you can speak in front of the microphone and it won't pick up the sounds at the back. Another option is a dynamic microphone, which eliminates background noise and just picks up your voice. Some good makes are Audio-Technica and Rode. They actually offer some really popular choices among podcasters. Okay, so that's microphones. Now headphones. Did you just wince? Some of our clients wince when we tell them that they must wear headphones. It's really, really important for sound quality. Because without headphones, the listeners may hear an echo or feedback, but it doesn't matter what kind of headphones you use. You don't have to have the great big cans that go around your ears. You can choose the kind that you feel most comfortable. And if you're worried about your hair or how you look with big headphones, wear earphones. Just make sure that they're not turned up too loud so that sound doesn't bleed back into the microphone. Now, as we've mentioned, some podcasts do use a video element, so make sure you clarify this with the host before the interview. There is nothing worse than showing up to an interview, assuming it's audio, with wet hair and old clothes, only to find out that you're on camera. Again, don't rely on your computer's inbuilt webcam. You don't need to spend much on an external webcam to make an incredible difference. I recently showed the difference between my laptop's webcam and an inbuilt computer camera in our Facebook group, The Best Guest. The picture goes from grainy and fuzzy to much clearer and professional looking, and I didn't spend loads on a webcam. A decent option is the Logitech HD Pro Webcam C920. Okay, so once you've got the equipment you need for podcast interviews, you're going to start researching podcasts that would be a good fit for you. Remember, it's really important that you don't take a scattergun approach unless you're just getting started and want to build your confidence and get some practice. But as soon as you've got some podcast interviews under your belt and you're ready to make it part of your strategy, you need to get serious and think about which podcasts are going to be the most beneficial for you. So firstly, it's not a good idea to send template pitches to a random list of podcasts in the hope that something will stick. It won't help your credibility to do this, and the results will be mediocre at best. If you take the time to research podcasts properly before you approach them and then suggest being a guest, the reward will be tenfold. So with that said, let's look at ways to tell if a podcast is a good fit. Start by making a list of a couple of people in your industry. If you're an author, you could write down some authors. If you're in business, a couple of competitors. Then Google their names with the word podcasts and note the shows that come up. iTunes also has a list of categories for their podcasts. You can browse through the most relevant, such as business, marketing, health and wellness, etc., and make a note of all the podcasts that come up. Next, take a closer look at the podcasts on your list. You're going to want to check out if they have a professional-looking website. Do they have a presence on social media? Do they promote their podcast to their audience? Do they publish their podcast to their website? And can you tell if they have an email list? Then look at how regularly they put out episodes. Are they consistent or sporadic? How many episodes have they released? Is it more than 20, 25? If they have a steady number of shows behind them, this can be a really helpful indicator that the host is committed to making the podcast a success. That's the kind of show that you want. And check that the podcast is active. There's no point pitching to a show that hasn't released a new episode in the last year, or a show that isn't consistent. Then look at the show description for each podcast. Often it will state who the podcast serves. This is an example from the podcast PTSD and Beyond. The PTSD and Beyond podcast brings experts in mental health and self-development, as well as people sharing their mental health experiences and journey. PTSD and Beyond episodes are related to PTSD, mental wellness, PTSD awareness, advocacy, education, peer support, trauma recovery, and post-trauma growth. PTSD and Beyond guests range from peers sharing their stories to researchers discussing the latest case studies to subject matter experts delivering nuggets of practical information. Think about the podcast's audience. Is their audience the same as your target audience? You can delve deeper by looking at the comments on their social media channels and their reviews on iTunes to get a rounder picture of the show's audience and how engaged they are. Next, listen to a couple of episodes. Does their style suit you? Does it fit your brand? You'll have your own criteria as well. For example, we have clients who say to us that swearing is a no. Then look at the episodes already made. Do they chime with the content you could offer? Is there a gap somewhere that you could fill? Think about how you could add value to the host's audience. Then look at the podcast host. Who are they? Are they a good connection for you? Sometimes the host is the person who will become your client or someone who can open doors for you. Would it be beneficial to be in their network? Now you have your list. Tune into the next episode to learn what to put in your pitch to 10 times your chance of a yes from hosts. Thank you so much for listening to the Best Guest podcast today. I'll talk to you again in the next episode.